There's some massive changes coming to the Spokane housing market and the Washington housing market as a whole because of some ADU laws that recently got passed at the state level. So I'm going to dive into those and show you how you could make a lot of money investing in real estate now with plans to develop in about 5 years from now. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Haydn Halsted, your local Spokane real estate resource. And it is one of those weeks where I'm filming in the car between appointments because there was just no time. But I wanted to tell you about this new law that got passed in regards to ADUs and how they're going to be a huge part of the landscape of housing here in Spokane in the next 5 to 10 years, how you can make a lot more money than I would even have told you could make with ADUs, because I actually always warned people against spending your money on them. And yeah, so let's get into this. But recently in Washington, there were over 100 something bills that were passed in legislature in regards to housing in some way or another, and this is one of them that we're going to dive into. But what they are doing is allowing ADUs to be more accessible to homeowners to build so that there's more housing options for people to rent. And they're really pushing this because there's an argument made in the bill itself that ADUs are often rented for below market value, and over 10% of all ADUs out there are rented for free to family members, to elderly family members, to kids, to friends that are in life transition. And so to have this type of housing where it's not as much of a burden because the homeowner maybe lives in the house and they just have an additional dwelling unit in the backyard to help somebody get back on their feet. But it just allows us to create more density in our neighborhoods and all of that. And so for the long time here in Spokane, you've only been able to build one ADU on your property. It could be 800 square feet, and you had to live in one of the two units on the property, either the main house or the ADU. You had to live in one of those. Recently, Spokane, as of last year, changed it to where those ADUs could be bigger. You no longer had to live in either of the units. You could rent out both of them and be a full landlord to the property. And so now Washington is making this a law for the entire state itself. And then they've added in a couple other interesting things, because the thing that I always said was ADUs are cool, but it costs money to do that. And is it worth it as an investment? Unless you have a ton of equity in the property that you could refinance your house, pull that cash out and build the ADU, then that makes sense. But a lot of times you're going to build these ADUs for 175,000 bucks, and the cash on cash return just might not be there. And it's hard to get a loan on these things, and your property value is not going to go up 1 to 1, or we would hope like 1.5 to 1, to where you're spending $175,000 and then maybe your property's worth 250 grand more. That's what we would want, but there's not enough ADUs in our area to warrant that. And so now they're making it so you can actually build some wealth and make some money as a homeowner while you're building these ADUs. So I'm going to show you how. So the first thing we want to talk about is that this can be on any property with a principal unit. And a principal unit is defined as a single family, duplex, triplex, or townhome of any kind. And so you could have a property, an investment property with a triplex, and have the ability to build an ADU, a fourth unit on that property potentially. And in some of this wording, it even would say that you could build a fifth unit because you're allowed 2 ADUs with one primary residence. So you could have a triplex with 2 ADUs on that property and turn it into 5 units without it being a commercial property. Secondly, they're making sure that the city cannot charge you a bunch of fees. And that's been a conversation here in Spokane about impact fees. At the beginning of this year, 2023, we had, I was going to the city council. A lot of my realtor friends were going to city council because they were trying to increase impact fees by 1,400%, which would make it so that building a fourplex here in Spokane was going to cost you an additional $100,000 on top of the cost to build it already, because of the impact fees. Now we fixed that. It's much lower now. It's not as big of a deal. There's a potential new vote in the next year, but don't worry about it right now. But for these impact fees, they cannot charge additional ones on ADUs, and the impact fees have to actually be 50% of what they would be to build the primary residence and new. So they can't charge you impact fees for a single family home. They have to charge you half of what that single family home would cost to build. So the next wording is that the city must allow anybody to build 2 ADUs on every property. So now this is big, and this has to be This could be any property that is the right size for a single family home. So a typical 6,000 square foot lot could have potential small duplex in the backyard and have 2 units. So I think this is massive. And then this is going to lead into what's a really big deal here in just a minute. But before we get into the biggest news, the other big news is that this states that cities must allow existing sellers or homeowners to convert existing structures into ADUs. So instead of having to tear it down and rebuild from scratch, you should be allowed to convert. I'm a little curious on if there will be requirements, because like a lot of garages are built on a slab and they're like a pole structure. So is code gonna allow for those things to be counted as an ADU? That's a question of mine. But this says that they must allow any current buildings to be converted, even if they violate setbacks or lot coverage. So if you have a garage, then you can definitely turn it into an ADU. It's just going to be a question of what does the code look like for that property. And then the big news, what you all came here for, what's going to make you the most money with these, is that when you buy a property within the next year to 5 years from now, because this is what I'm encouraging and this is what I'm telling people to do as real estate investors now, is we're going to be looking at the urban growth area here in the Spokane County. And so I'm going to have a map up highlighting the urban growth areas. And if you buy a property in this area, and we're going to be looking for properties on a little bit larger lots so that they're comfortable when you have 2 ADUs on these properties. But what you will be able to do is turn these now 3 houses that you have on the property all into their own condo association. So now what this means is that I can have the Haydn Halsted condos at XYZ Main Street on a half-acre lot. Let's say 1/3 of an acre lot would be just fine. But what I can do now is sell each of those properties individually. Now this is the huge game changer. This, my concern earlier, where ADUs don't actually make you money and build equity into your property, this now allows you to have 3 different properties that all have their own market value that will sell for more than you built them for. And you'll be able to maybe build these ADUs, sell them, pay off your house, and now you have a free and clear house. You'll be able to refinance these properties individually, pull HELOCs on these properties individually to invest money other places. There's just going to be so many more opportunities now for fix and flippers. You purchase a house that has a large lot, you don't have to worry about doing short plats. It can be really complicated. Just build those 2 ADUs, condoize them, and then split and then sell them from there. So there's just going to be so many more options for people to build wealth in real estate now, that they are allowed to easily build 2 more units on their property and then be able to sell them, because that's where the real value is. So I'm really excited about this. I think if you are looking to make some money in real estate, you should be looking in the urban growth area for homes on slightly larger lots. Doesn't have to be huge, and then put a renter in there for the next 5 years, because this doesn't go into effect until about 2027, I believe. So we have some time, but this allows you to find some good deals now, build some equity in those properties, have the renter pay it down, so that you could leverage some of that pay down that you've had so far, or some of that good deal, some of the equity that you've built because of appreciation, to then go build those ADUs for little money out of pocket and then be able to flip that property later. So I think this is going to be a massive, this is what I'm going to be looking for. And I think with these ADU laws, it's really going to change the landscape. We're going to see a lot more of these being built. Yeah, so I'm really excited. As I said, thanks so much for watching this video, sticking with me in my car. If you found this helpful, again, my name is Haydn Halsted, your real estate resource here in Spokane. I help people buy and sell real estate, whether they are moving from across the country or they're here locally. Just reach out, use the link down below in the description to schedule a meeting on my calendar at a time that's convenient for you. I'd love to connect, answer your questions, and get to help you out. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.